If you struggle writing characters, this video is for you. I'm going to demystify what character arcs are and how to build them. So let's get started. We all know what a plot diagram is. So we're going to use the exact same diagram, but for character arcs. It's that simple. So first off, we're going to expose a weakness in the character. And then we're going to do little tests. So does the character make a change or not, depending on the pressure they might face? Then they're going to take a stand. And then, of course, the consequences and transformation. And when you can tie in the character arc to the main theme of the novel, that just makes your story that much more powerful. So let's talk about exposing a weakness and how that might seem. So we have here Mira, and let's say that she's feeling nervous and insecure. She didn't find confidence around her boss and was afraid of making a mistake or being judged. But again, when we're writing, we don't have to be so telling. So let's do something like this. Mira adjusted the cups on the tray twice, then once more. So we're trying to show that anxiety, that it's really bothering her. Her fingers trembled as she knocked on the office door. So this is obviously something deep-seated here. So let's use some dialogue. So, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, she whispered, eyes down. When we're building that character arc, now that we've exposed that weakness, we're going to now take little tests, add some pressure to this character to see how she reacts and whether she learns or not from that exposure. We're starting with something small but meaningful. It's either a habit, a reaction, a choice that says this is how they cope in the moment, and it is a weakness. And these tests, as pressure we're going to impose, are going to expose even further and maybe give her opportunities to grow as part of her character arc, giving conflict to this character. So let's show that. Mira paused outside the same door. She held one coffee, not three. She knocked once, hard. This will be quick, she said as she stepped inside. We don't want speeches. We don't need flashbacks. We just need to expose that behavior under pressure. So how is she changing under that pressure? And now if you look at how at the beginning of the story, would she have acted in the same way? Well, no, she didn't. So she's gaining some growth. But has she fully achieved her arc? Not yet. We can flesh that out towards the end of the story. So just like in a plot, character arc, when someone takes a stand, it's kind of like the climax. So here we want to have her succeed, that she was confident, have everyone watching her, but she stands by her own point of view. So let's do this. The boardroom was silent, all eyes on her. Mira clicked to the final slide. We're either building for the next year or we won't be here. This is the way out. She met every stare, even the CEO's. She doesn't have to say she's changed. I think the reader's going to feel it. It's going to be very obvious. Now, of course, every character arc, you don't have to succeed. Sometimes there's a failure. Maybe no one in that room believes in what she says. But maybe as part of that, because of her taking the stand, she gains confidence in herself to maybe start her own business. So that's a way you can integrate into the plot, and it hits the overarching theme or that transformation you want to see out of that character. A character arc doesn't have to be so in your face. It could also be very subtle. So let's use this one. We're using quiet tension and small actions and behaviors to actually speak volumes. So let's have a character named Mark. So let's say Mark slammed the door behind him, not looking back. The hallway echoed with his footsteps. So at the start of the story, he's actually leaving his girlfriend behind. They had a fight and he wants to move on. But we can start showing that through the middle of the book, the character arc, that he's starting to grow. At the kitchen table, he pulled out a note from her and crumpled it. Just as he was about to toss it, he hesitated, then stuffed it into his back pocket. So here, that conflict, that pressure we're adding is he going to fully give up his thoughts of his old ex-girlfriend? And that's a test. And in this test, he decides to keep a memory of her and what he had with this character. And so it's subtle, but it's an important shift, and that readers are going to catch on that. So let's do something at the end. He stood outside her window, slipping the crumpled note, now smooth flat, back into his back pocket. He straightened and reached out, hand shaking, then paused, breathing out. Just a soft tap on the glass. So here we're not doing any speeches. We're not summarizing or explaining for the reader. We're just using small gestures. So the silence in this particular character on this type of writing fills in the space where feelings hide. And the behavior carries the weight. And it's a great way to express feeling is through their actions and behavior. It doesn't have to be through dialogue. It doesn't have to be through telling summary. And readers are going to love that. They're smart. You don't need to tell them. You just need to show them. So where a lot of character arcs fall apart is because the middle is missing. The author never necessarily applied any pressure, or the character never actually made a change, good or bad. So if you start with a bad version that someone is saying terrified to speak, then somehow saves the world, or somehow takes charge at the end, the readers are not going to buy it. You're going to have to leave little crumbs, those little pressure points in the story, that test of character, to see if they're going to grow or not. And again, your arc doesn't have to be dramatic, but the readers are going to feel it has to be earned. So those little breadcrumbs you leave, that growth or regression and then later growth again, you need that to tell your story. So to build a character arc that hits, you need to show who they are at the start. So you need to expose that weakness. You need to apply pressure at key points on the story to allow them to choose differently. And then you also need to let their choices show who they become. And you don't have to summarize it or state it. You can use that actions, behaviors, and dialogue to express that growth. Now, there's so much I could talk about in building character arcs, but I'll save that for later videos. If you happen to like this video, click like and subscribe. Happy writing.